Well, hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead on Porch Time again today. And guys, yep, I'm in the cabin today. It's windy, it's cold. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but the rain is ending up. We've had several days of torrential downpours. I think we're up a little over 4.5 inches of rain so far. The ponds are filling up. The land has been watered. I think our drought we won't have to worry about that for quite some time. The sad part, a lot of our grass that we had planted died, for the cows for this winter, so we'll probably have to be feeding a lot more hay than what we normally do. But nevertheless, it is what it is, and finally cold weather has come to Deep South. And according to the almanac and the weather that I've looked at, they're talking about some pretty chilly weather, for the whole month of December. But guys, being over here at the cabin has its relaxing part to it. You listen to the rain on the metal roof and everything. And Ms. Wanda's not here with me right now. Hopefully, a little while later on today, she'll be able to come over and we're going to build a fire in the fireplace, and we're going to just sit back and take it easy. We're going to enjoy some of today, and because there's not really a lot else we can do with the light rain, and we've pretty much caught up on things that we need to do. So we're going to probably be just enjoying a little bit of the cabin life today. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something that's happening in our nation. 2020 has definitely been the year of change. I have probably seen more change this year in our nation and in my life in a lot of ways than I have in a long time. I'm not going to say all the change in the nation has been for good, but there's been a lot of change. Now, what we're facing right now in America is what's called a mass exodus right now. And in the financial world, it's being called the Great Relocation. I never thought that I would see this kind of thing happen in our country at the rate in which it's happening. Now, it's not the first time that there's been a mass exodus of people in this country. I mean, during the Dust Bowl, we had people who left the Midwest and went to California and Oregon and all kinds of different places out west where it wasn't so dry at, and in search of a better life for themselves. In 1815, the year without a summer, we had a mass exodus of people from the north to the south then, because you couldn't grow anything in the north. People were starving to death. And they realized that down south that you could grow food, so they actually came south. So this is not anything new, and we have to understand that it's not anything new. Solomon in the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever we have happening, it has happened before at some point. So we have to realize that. But with all that being said, we're running into a lot of issues with this great relocation that's starting to happen in this country. One is that there's in the country, in the rural areas, there's becoming a housing shortage in rural areas. Wanda and I, for many years, have looked at land to purchase, thinking about relocating, because where we were living at here, we had a lot of problems with loud dogs and kids and stuff like that, and equipment making lots of loud noises and stuff. And God's been good in that area. It's quiet here now. The dogs are all gone. Now there's still dogs in the neighborhood, but they're not unruly most of the time. I mean, occasionally they get out of hand a little bit, but as a rule of thumb, it's not bad anymore. It's pretty peaceful here now. Most kids have gone on about their lives and growing up and stuff like that. You hardly ever hear a kid make a noise anymore, and that's good. if you're looking for peace and quiet. And that's given Wanda and I a lot of hope here where we live at. And you know, people are always asking us, well, how much land do y'all have? Well, we only have 10 acres here. And it's very, I'm gonna say this, it's very difficult to run a functioning homestead on 10 acres and raise all that you need to eat, especially your meat, your vegetables, having room for animals to graze, without buying hay, all this kind of stuff, firewood, things of this nature. To be sustainable, 10 acres is very, very difficult to make it on. But nevertheless, we've been trying. We have not relocated, even though for years we have looked for a place of relocation. And it's just that God has never opened up a door for us. So we've accepted the fact that maybe at this point in time, He wants us right here. He's blessed us here. We can't say anything about that because He has. He's given us over and abundant what we need here to be supplied. And for that, we're thankful. But there's a lot of things, you know, like I said, there's a housing shortage in rural areas. I mean, if a piece of property goes up for sale, it's usually gone within 1 to 2 days. I kind of keep up with the real estate business a pretty good bit nationwide. Tennessee, Missouri, Kentucky, these are places that Oklahoma, or eastern Oklahoma, should I say, and then now it's getting to be central and southern Oklahoma, should I say, is becoming, some places in the Carolinas, is becoming a mass exodus, even Florida, for people trying to get out of the big cities. And they're buying up all the rural land. A lot of it, realtors are telling me, people are buying it sight unseen. They're just going off of pictures. And guys, that's a little scary there, you know, because I've seen some beautiful pictures of property and I've went and looked at them and they're nothing like what the picture looks like. You know, the people taking the pictures done a very good job of making it look like something that it wasn't. So with the great relocation, we see that we have a lot of rural areas, a shortage of housing. And you got to understand, rural people don't make a lot of money. And what it's done is it just drove up the price of real estate in rural areas so that rural families can no longer afford land. Our kids, when they grow up, if they need to buy a piece of property close around mom and dad or something, because people from the cities is coming out buying it up so fast, well, it's a supply and demand thing. The demand is so high and the supply is short that prices has gone sky high and a young person can't afford to buy anything anymore. And they end up usually having to rent, which is sad in my opinion, but nevertheless, that's how the economy is going right now. Most are leaving these cities because of the virus. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, most people are panicking. They're panic buying. They're leaving the cities because of CV, and they're scared they're going to get it and they're going to die from it. And they feel like that if they go to a rural area, that it's not as prevalent there. That's not true. People out in our area, people rural, is getting it just like people in the cities. Maybe not in as massive as of amount, but based on per capita, it's still the same. It's not immune. No one's immune to it. It's happening, and it's made life really, really difficult out in rural areas now, because lots of people that's coming in from the cities, they leave the cities because they don't like what's happening in the cities, and then they come to the country and they want to change the country and they want to make it like it was when they was in the city. You know, they want all the fast internet, they want, you know, they want pizza delivery, they want all this kind of stuff, and that's not what rural life is all about. Rural life is about quietness. It's about serenity. It's about getting along with your neighbors. And most people from suburban areas, and I'm not saying everybody, but there's lots of people from suburban areas, and we notice it here. They don't know what it is to be quiet. You hear screaming and hollering and loud noise and loud music and stuff like that. They think, well, I'm in the country now, I can just do what I want to do. And well, that's not what it's all about. And that irritates country people. Country people like to be able to sit out on the porch and watch wildlife in the evenings, and they like to be able to maybe grill or just sit out there and just be quiet and not hear nothing but just the birds and chirping and all that. And when you've got loud music and people bringing all their barking dogs with them and all this kind of stuff into the country, people don't take kindly to that, and then they wonder why rural people are the way they are. Well, you try to change the way of life in a rural community, and people just don't take kindly to it. And another reason people move from the cities out to the country areas is because the cost of living is a lot lower in a rural area. Lots of people from the big cities can buy a big piece of land and a home for a lot less than what they're paying for renting an apartment in a big city. And the utilities are a lot cheaper and all this kind of stuff, and that's rightfully so. That's because the income in the country areas is just not as high as it is in the big cities, and that has made country life be a little bit more affordable for country people to survive. There's nothing like going to the general hardware store or the general packing plant or something like that that's owned by a local person and knowing them personally. It's not like a big box store. And then what's happening is, because a lot of city folk are moving into the country, they want the big box stores out here because they're used to running to Home Depot or Lowe's or Marvin's or Walmart or Kroger's or whatever you want to call it, T-Max or whatever, J-Max, whatever all these places are called. But they want that convenience out here, and the next thing you know, the towns are voting to bring that kind of stuff in, and the mom and pop places is out of business. Because they can't compete with those kind of people. And so that's why rural people a lot of times, are the way that they are. I was doing a little bit of research. Just this year alone, over 300,000 people have left New York City alone, looking for rural areas. They're moving outside the cities. Now, they may still work in the cities, but they don't live in the city anymore. They're moving just outside in the edges of Connecticut and, Delaware, and all these places around. They're moving out where they can if they have to commute, they could commute. New Jersey and these different places like that, upper state New York. They're moving out of the city into these areas, buying up all the land, and that's driving up prices even more. Taxes is going to go up even more. There's a lot of other things I could talk about that, and guys, please understand, I'm not criticizing people from moving to the country. I live in the country. I moved to the country because I wanted to have a serene life. And I'm not criticizing people. Please don't get me wrong. I just know that everybody can't live in the country. Somebody's got to live in the city. A lot of your states are noticing that, like Tennessee, I noticed one of them. Some parts of Missouri is the same way. Less tourism. Because of the virus. We have a lot of tourist industry on the coast down below me here. There's a lot of slump in that right now. Tourism is not as good because of the virus, and they're trying to recap some of that money other ways, and a lot of it has to do with raising taxes and doing things to compensate for things that we've got ourselves involved in because of the revenue we were used to getting from tourist industries and stuff. And a lot of people trying to flee away from this kind of stuff. And, it'll work for a while. After a while, it all eventually catches up with you. And there's some more statistics that There were over 244,000 people alone in the state of in the city of New York that applied to the Postal Service. I went and looked on the Postal Service's thing, that applied for address changes. Now it's normal for around 100,000 a year, but this year it's been like 244,000 have applied for address changes. So now a lot of it could be, you know, families dispersing out, you know, kids moving out of the house, getting an address somewhere else, or, you know, I mean, it could be a lot of different scenarios, but predominantly it's because of the big relocation that's going on in the country right now. People are scared to go to their places of employment because they're afraid they're going to get the virus and die from it. And guys, I don't know really what to say about a lot of that. You know, I mean, people throughout history has always migrated for one reason or another. And I don't think this is any different than any other one. Well, guys, right in the middle of porch time, just like I told you, we're going to announce the 150,000 subscriber giveaway person. This was not easy for Wanda and I. We went through a lot of the names. A lot of them are very familiar with Wanda and I. Some of them have been with us for quite some time. A lot we have met personally. You know, we have an orphan lady who lives close to us here, or well, not close, but over from us. She's been with us for a long time. And many others. I mean, that's just one I'm going to mention. Many of them have been with us and have followed us throughout the times. And guys, Wanda and I decided when we got ready to pick this person that we wanted to be somebody who has been with us for a while, almost since the beginning. I've talked to them personally on the telephone. I've never met them in person, but I've talked to them personally. They've told me their story. Very moving. This person was a truck driver and ended up with a brain infection that caused them to be disabled. They had to learn how to talk all over again. They had to learn how to walk and to use their arms and do everything all over again. And throughout the years, we're talking to them on the phone and different things. They've told us how that we've been an inspiration to them, and they now have a little homestead. They have animals. They're pushing through this problem that they had, this disability, and they're persevering. They're not stopping. And guys, that to us is what it's all about. It's not giving up. You know, in the video here, I'm talking about the great relocation. Not everybody can relocate. And this person just happens to be one of them that can't relocate. And they've financially struggled to get where they're at. I know his wife has continued to work as much as she could, while he tried to do as much on the homestead as he could. And some of you will recognize the name. They comment occasionally, not all the time, but they've been persistent, and they've been a dear friend of ours. They have blessed our hearts with stories and emails and comments. They've been right there with us and told us about the progress of their life, the struggles that they've faced. And it has been a tremendous inspiration to Wanda and I. So the person is Keith Sutton. And I classify Keith as a friend of ours. And Keith, if you will get with Wanda and I, email us and give us your physical address so that we can send this gift box to you. It would mean a lot to us to be able to give that to you and to be able to bless you with this box. And guys, I think we can take a lot away from Keith. Keith has had a rough go of it, and he has persevered. He builds his own cabinets now. He may not be able to build all kind of big structures and stuff like that but he's done a lot of his own cabinet work. He's doing a lot of his own solar work. I mean, he's learning. He's putting his hands to the plow, and he's not looking back, like the scripture says. And Keith, if I remember correctly, Keith has a small ministry where he's at, and he's always mentioning our channel on his ministry. He's asked us personally, could he share some of our videos before, and I've always told him yes. And guys, that's what it's about. It's about continuing to help others. So Keith Sutton is the winner of the 150,000 subscriber giveaway. Now there's a few things that does concern me. One being that if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this, and I know you will correct me if I am, because that's the way YouTube works. You always got those people out there that want to correct everybody. But I think by the end, unless they've extended the deadline, I think by the end of 2020, the right of eviction, where you couldn't evict somebody because of the virus, is going to come to an end around at the end of 2020, or they may have extended it on into 2021 a little piece. The guys, we're approaching the threshold of the end of that, and what that's going to mean is the people who haven't been able to pay their house notes and their mortgage bills and all these kinds of things like this, or utilities and stuff, the grace period's fixing to run out. And when people can't afford to do that, then we're going to be looking at people that's not going to be able to afford to stay warm, people that's not going to afford their electric bills, they're going to be able to afford their housing. You're going to end up with a lot more homeless people than what you had in 2008. So we do see that, that those kind of things are what we're going to be facing. I mean, this is a very, I hate to say this, but this is really a difficult video for me to have to make, because it's an unusual video. It's one that carries with it so much information that's not new information. It's just information, and then I guess one of the big things is that I've noticed this in dealing with companies, because a lot of times Wanda and I will contact companies and try to work out a deal so that our subscribers can get discounts if we promote that company or something to that nature. And a lot of the companies that I'm contacting are working from home, the people that I have to talk to, because they won't let them go back to the office because of the virus, or for insurance reasons, and people don't want to get sick, so they've moved. The companies has allowed them to move the internet system for their companies out to their homes and work, and people are becoming accustomed to this. They're not having to commute, and they're able to keep more of their paycheck each week because they're not spending it in fuel for traveling and eats for going out and eating and stuff like this, and clothes and things to this nature. They're able to keep a little bit more of their income to spend, and a lot of people are liking this. So I think that this is a trend that we're going to see in this nation that's probably going to be a trend of the future. Because guys, let me say this, CV is here to stay. It's not going to go away magically. I think at to some degree, it's probably going to be here permanently. Every year, it will be like a reoccurrence of it, maybe in a different form. It may mutate in different ways, but I believe it's going to be here permanently. It'll be here to stay now. And, talking about this massive relocation thing, people who have lots of money, I was looking at a financial thing there, that people who have lots of money are actually leaving America. They're actually moving to remote islands and to countries that have very little COVID in it. And there's a mass exodus of people that have high incomes to other countries where they don't have any problems dealing with things there. And the cases are very low, and they don't have all the restrictions and all that's been here in the United States. Now, with the massive relocation, or the great relocation, when they call it that, what does this mean for us as individuals? And a lot of people under the sound of my voice may be those that are relocating. And you know, I can't say without any certainty right now that that if I was to find a massive, big, huge piece of property that had everything on it that I wanted, you know, there's always a possibility that I would consider relocating. Just not because of the virus or anything like that, but to have more land to be sustainable on, you know, for my cows and stuff like that. These are things that I would consider, but at this moment, I mean, I'm very content with what's going on right where I am, and I don't fault anyone for wanting to do better or wanting to get out of the cities. I don't fault anybody for that. I just know that there's some consequences that's going to be a result of this happening here. One is that as elderly people are dying off, because the supply is so low for land in rural countries, lots of younger people will be breaking up homesteads that belong to their grandparents and their parents because they see an opportunity to make a lot of money. And it's a buyer's market right now, let me tell you, or a seller's market. I mean, if you've got a piece of property, you can sell it right now if it's rural. And you can just about name your price for it. I'm in that process right now, dealing with my father's estate. I'm not going to probably keep it because I have no need for another home and another piece of property on the other side of town. I'm probably going to put it up for sale. But, you know, I see things that go beyond this. First of all, we talked about people moving home with the businesses, not having to commute to work anymore. I see that opening up the door for a massive cyber attack on this country because not everyone has great cyber protection in rural areas. So it'd be very easy for a cyber attack to take place. I see rural areas not being rural anymore. I see lots of people moving to rural areas and rural areas becoming overpopulated, and the fact of living a rural life in this country is just a pipe dream in the future because people are dispersed everywhere now. And there's no such thing as owning a big farm anymore because taxes will be so high in rural areas from them raising the taxes because so many people move there. When that many people move there, then utility costs have to go up, new phone lines have to be put in, new water lines have to be put in, new sewage systems have to be put in, so taxes has to be raised, and therefore property taxes will have to go up for everybody. And these are things that I see happening. So, you know, the great relocation, is it real? Yes, it's real. Has it happened before? Yes, it's happened before. Will people stay rural? That's left to be said. I mean, it depends. If CV happens to diminish and it becomes where it's not really a threat anymore and people feel safe going back to cities, then a lot may move back into cities. It probably will be more of the younger generation that will go back looking for the better jobs. And it happened after all the other resets in history. People eventually migrated back to the cities once things got squared away for better paying jobs and rural areas become remote again. It's just that once it happens this time, there'll be so many homes built out in rural areas that I don't really see land in the country ever being cheap again. You know, I think that it's probably always going to be expensive from this point forward. So guys, these are some things that we're to be mindful of. And if you're one of the ones that's relocating to a rural area, please be courteous to the rural people. And they'll be courteous back to you. Lots of rural people seem like they're different. But it's not that they're really different. Lots of rural people have a different mentality. I have some that live around me that don't want to talk to you. They don't want nothing to do with you. But it doesn't mean they're bad people. They like their privacy. And I respect that. I like my privacy. And And I highly respect them for being that way. In my opinion, they make great neighbors. They don't bother you. If something happens and they can help, they will help. But they're not the kind of people that you just want to visit with all the time, because they don't like that, you know. And I highly respect that. And I think that that's the way it should be. I think, you know, when you get on rural property, another thing, people think just because it's rural, they have a right to go and do whatever they want to do. I've ran into that where I live out here before. And that's not so. If someone else owns that land, then you need their permission to go on that property. You don't have the right to just go on there and do what you want to do and ride on their roads if you want to ride on their roads. If they own those roads, then you have to ask permission to go on that property and to hunt on it or to fish on it or to just sightsee or ride or enjoy yourself. You still have to ask permission if it's not your property. Just because it's rural land does not give you the right to just do what you want to do on it. So, guys, I hope today that, you know, a porch time that it'll make all of us think a little bit more about this relocation thing, because it's happening. There's nothing right now we can do to stop it. It's happening at an alarming rate. I've talked to people in Tennessee, I've talked to people in Missouri, Florida, you know, all of Kentucky, all over this country, Oklahoma, and people are flooding in everywhere. So just remember, I'm not condemning anybody for moving. I'm just saying, when you move, be respectful of the people that you move around and try to be a good neighbor, because that's what rural people want. They want to be good neighbors. And my daddy used to have a saying, good fences make good neighbors. So if you get a piece of property, please fence it if it's not already fenced, because it has proven true with me that good fences make good neighbors. So guys, I hope that you have enjoyed today, and I hope that in some ways maybe it's been a little eye-opening as to what's going on around us, because we're in the midst of a mass exodus right now. And let's be patient with the people that move in around us, and let's try to get to know them. Let's try to work with them. And if you're one of the ones that's moving, then try to get to know your neighbors and try to be respectful of them. And I think that we would all get along a lot better if we did this. So thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.